We're going to start off with Mr. Sumit Kumar, Director Digital and Technology Consulting, EY India. Our next leader is Mr. Piyush Gupta, Chief Data Scientist, PayU Finance. Our next leader is Mr. Rudra Biswal, CTO, Arthan Finance, Mr. Biswal. Our next leader is Mr. Siddhesh, Sardesai, Chief Technology Officer, Emkay, Global Finance Services. Our next leader is Mr. Dipesh Karki, co-founder and CTO, LenDenClub. Mr. Karki, fantastic leader, stage is all yours. Thank you so much.
Digital, key tenets of digital, looking at things outside it, looking at streamlining processes, looking at reimagining customer journeys, removing friction, utilizing data, and that's what we are here to talk about. So, before I do that, I'll leave the floor to the panelists, right, to introduce themselves, the firm they come from.
My name is Piyush Gupta. I'm Chief Data Scientist at PayU Finance. So I manage the data science, data engineering, and analytics teams at PayU Finance. One of the things that we've talked about quite a lot today is about financial inclusion, and I think that's one area that I'm super passionate about. I'm the original follower of the book Wealth of Nations. I really believe that for any nation to grow, having credit penetration and having access to credit for a citizen when they need it is really, really important. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that particular thing in my career right now.
Siddhesh?
Hi everyone, this is Siddhesh Sardesai. I come from Emkay Global and I look after the technology at Emkay Global. What I'm passionate about is basically, as my title goes, it is technology. I keep on, I'm interested in the latest technologies that are there, the emerging technologies. I keep on reading articles about them and also like to experiment certain things back at my organization.
Hello, my name is Rudra Biswal, and I am a CTO at Arthan Finance. So, Arthan Finance is a new age NBFC. We started sometime in 2019, and we are more focused into this business loans, small and micro business loans. So it's been a fantastic 3 years journey that we have gone through. Of course, out of that 2 years, this Corona pandemic has already taken away from us. But then now we are not looking back, and see the focus at Arthan Finance is, of course, since it's a new age NBFC, of course the technology. We try to drive everything through technology, and of course data. So today's topic is also that's it's very relevant. So I'm looking forward to interact with you.
So hi everyone, I'm Dipesh, co-founder and CTO of LenDenClub. LenDenClub is India's leading peer-to-peer lending platform. So we started this idea in 2015, where we thought that there's so many financial transactions that we do with banks, NBFCs, even with the local money lenders and all. But then there are not many digital transactions available. It was not available back then. So our first challenge was to bring entire customer set to a digital platform through a physical mode, wherein we wanted to make sure the majority of the transaction happens in a digital mode. Of course, there was a huge challenge building the trust with the customers back then. But then, as of today, just like Rudra mentioned and Kumar mentioned here, we are 100% digital lending platforms, wherein you get an opportunity either to borrow a small ticket size loan of even as low as 2,000 rupees through our platform and up to 10 lakh rupees, right? At the same time, you can also make an investment and earn a double-digit return. Coming from the technology background, right, I'm more passionate about digitizing the finance further. So currently, like I mentioned, right, we moved from physical to a digital, but I want to take it as far as to the extent of metaverse and the likes of it. Let's see how financial games go there. So that's my passion.
Thank you. Siddhesh, I'll start with you. My first question, right? How is the customer experience changing with the advent of emerging tools and technologies? How do you see it?
Alright, so I think last 2 years it has been quite transforming in terms of the customer experience, because everyone has gone through a lot because of the COVID pandemic. Things have changed, the working styles have changed, and what we've seen or observed is that the customers have become more patient, they have become more experimental, and they want, so basically they want to try the services and products more. They want to spend more time with whatever products we give, whatever services we give, and they are more, they want to be along with us in that journey. Which means that the customer experience is now turning to be more like an immersive experience. Whatever products we give them. Earlier we used to do small presentations, and they used to simply take it up. But nowadays they give more feedback. They want audios, they want visuals, they want more details of the products that are there, and they want to experiment as well. They want to test as well. I mean, see, we come from a broking background, broking industry. Earlier we used to provide custom mobile apps and trading terminals to the customers. But nowadays the customers are developers also. They want to develop their own trading platforms. They want to integrate with us, which means we have to give them more APIs. So accordingly, with the changing customer experience, we are changing our technology landscape as well.
Rudra, my question to you is the other way around, right? How is technology shaping up to deliver better, superior customer experiences?
Yeah, so I think these days I would say that everybody puts customer first, right? So you have to have that customer centricity, then only you can survive in the market, you can survive competition. In the customer centricity, I think in the financial services especially, there is a huge change in the outlook of the customers. They always want, and they become demanding, as you was also saying that over a period of time, they become more tech savvy, they are more engaging, they want to engage with all this on the digital touch points. So things have changed to a great extent. So data, of course, plays a very key role, and technology definitely is the key for if you have to drive customer centricity, data is the key. So nowadays what people do, they of course don't keep the data in silos, they pull data from all the sources, like we also do that. So we have a lot of touch points from which we get a lot of information about the customer. Then we curate it, we process it, and extract a lot of insights out of it. And finally, we also then now technology is developed to that extent that the automatic actionables also are created out of it. So that is how we can provide a very good immersive experience, as Siddhesh was saying. And of course, in our business, it's again, we have to think from the point of view that the customers are in tier 2, tier 3 city, but still they are very tech savvy these days. So how do we engage with them? We have created our solutions, and the way we engage, because the touch points are our frontline officers who go to the field, they source leads, they source applications. So how we can make those touch points very engaging and very frictionless, and for the customer it will be totally hassle-free. So that is how we have developed our solutions. And these days there is a fintech environment where you can leverage a lot of these services through which you can provide a very good customer experience. So we are leveraging those services, and then just trying to see that customer is happy, they get their loan with a very limited turnaround time, and the purpose with which he has taken that loan finally materializes the dream, whatever he has.
So my next question to you is, right, data-led innovations. Data-led innovations, what are the use cases that you've seen being implemented across the industry? Right?
Yeah. So actually, at this point in time, all financial institutions, and not just limited to big banks, but NBFCs, fintechs, and in fact, including regulatory bodies, are using data, ML, and AI in like a variety of ways. Some of the most common ones that you would have heard of and you would have seen in your experience of using these apps and these services would be and specifically for usage of AI and ML, can be like process improvements, right? Video KYC, where we can do facial recognition. Process improvement specifically in terms of customer point verification. You don't need to go to the customer's house anymore. You can basically take geolocation data and ensure how confident you are about that data. Utilization of big data for credit decision, not just depending on a single and simple CIBIL score. Prevention of fraud, improved and enhanced security, specifically for your transactions, identification of any irregularity, and not just at a customer level, but imagine for you, it might be just 5 rupees in your account, but that happened to 10,000 customers in the same area at the same time. So all of these things are now sort of powered by AI. One another area where there's a lot of focus specifically for machine learning is on personalized marketing. So does Sumit see the same message that Piyush sees, what Siddhesh sees? I can actually show the message to be contextual, it can be geotagged, it can be anything else around that. But one additional area, and this is something that I touched upon in my introduction as well, where there's some phenomenal work happening is, I would say, it's financial inclusion. And especially for a country like India, it's where digitization is still a fairly recent phenomenon, where access to internet only happened after the mobile revolution in the last few years. And penetration is still very low. Like we can keep talking about how we are able to give access to NTC customers and this and that. But if you look at the number of customers who are potential customers versus number of people who actually have meaningful data on bureau based on which you can give information out, the credit penetration is really, really, really low. So there is a great opportunity here to push the boundaries by using state-of-the-art AI and ML techniques, so that financial inclusion not only remains a dream but becomes like an achievable target. And another thing there is around financial inclusion is it's not just about the timing of it, right? Like today I need to buy a fridge, and if I get that EMI after 3 months, then it's not useful. So maybe I'm inclusive from that perspective, but I'm not inclusive from at the time of the need. One last thing here is that I think we also need to be aware that there is a need for a constant and open dialogue between regulatory bodies as well as financial institutions. See, these are new technologies. There are basically unfounded impacts that these things can have. I'm sure all of us have heard of Apple Card. Like Apple Card was launched by one of the largest global technology companies, Apple, in collaboration with Goldman Sachs, which is again one of the largest global banks that you can find. But even the most basic functionality of it, let's say a credit line functionality for that card, differs based on whether you are a male or a female, even though you may have the exact same financial data. And it's not that their algorithms are wrong, it's not that gender is differentiating factor in the algorithm, it's that their underlying data itself is biased. And because of that biasness creeps into the product as well as the services experience of the customer. So there's a very urgent need, in my opinion, specifically to have a conversation between the regulatory bodies as well as financial institutions, so that this collaboration can result into how we see financial inclusion moving forward.
Well said, Dipesh, and just a continuation, right? What are the different use cases of artificial intelligence, machine learning that you've deployed within LenDenClub where you see significant benefits from them?
Thank you for the question, Sumit. So I think before moving to how we are using it, I'll just add a bit to what Piyush mentioned just now. So see, when we study computer science, we say that data is a crude form of the user's footprints that are available in the digital space. Right? It's the information that you drive out of it that creates the difference. Right? Information is well architected review of a customer or a persona of a customer that you're building in a digital space. So the problem with the entities in today's date is that they have access to n number of data, but I don't think many people have cracked this mojo of building a valuable information out of it, because of which there are a lot of use and a lot of misuse also, which push the regulation in order to make sure that you get the data, but get the data when you are about to make sense out of it. Just don't randomly collect data to make the customer feel insecure, because the larger part is not just data, it's about privacy of that data, right? So that was the concern. So with that in mind, right, we at LenDenClub are quite wary about the type of data that we collect from the customers, either directly or through partnerships or whatsoever. Nevertheless, we do interact with customer, we do tell our customers on, hey, these are the type of data that we'll be taking from you in order to make sure that we build the right kind of experience for you, because it is required to build that custom experience for the customer. So first use case that we tried to solve using data was to make sure that we are identifying the right kind of customer, and we are able to understand the right kind of income to obligation ratio, to make sure that we're not over leveraging the customer, we're not giving them more credit. Right? So this was the first use case that we solved, followed by another use case wherein we wanted to make sure, hey, although I'm saying that I'm trying to identify the income obligation ratio of a customer, there are many customers that try to dupe the documents that they provide to us, right? So we did a good amount of work on fraud checks, and we had already discussed in the backstage about some of the frauds that we had mentioned. Right? So there are instances wherein big bank statements do come as a fraud, and see, machine learning is technically human teaching, right? So first, human need to learn these things. So we did spend a good amount of time in order to understand how do you identify a PDF document that has been forged to provide as a bank statement and all, right? So those are the instances that we've been solving since a while. Currently, now that we've pretty much sorted on that side with regards to credit underwriting and fraud checks, now we are able to fine tune our customers, borrowers base to a greater extent, and as of today, we do say that our default rate is less than 4%, and the default adjusted return that we are giving to our end customers is between 10 to 12%. Right? So that's why we innovated our other part of the product using data. So we've been offering a variable kind of a return to our investors, wherein this is a general propensity for customer, wherein if you are getting a good experience, you don't talk about it. But if the experience is not so good, you choose each and every platform that is available out there to lament about it, right? So we wanted to move away from it in order to give a good experience to our customer. So that's when we came up with this product called FMP, wherein we leverage data to make sure that whatever the graph of the customer is during the course of tenure, to earn that return of 10 to 12%. If it is going up, hey, maybe you can export a little bit of high risk profile to this customer. If it is going a little down, maybe put some safe loans, right? So we do have scoring of loans, we do have categories of loans, and then we do exposure of these loans based on the performance of that particular investor's return. So with that, we've been able to, so we launched this product recently, but we've been doing this pilot since almost 10 or 11 months or so. So we've been able to see that we're able to achieve this return for investors for almost about 99 and 99.5% of our investors. So that's how we've been leveraging data. Now, there's another interesting use cases that we're trying to solve, wherein we do have a lot of customers, interacting with us in vernacular languages, and me just adding a lot of people in our office space is not the solution for it. So that's something that we realized with time, that human beings will not be able to cater to the kind of load that we are handling and the way we are growing. So that's when we introduced NLP-based calling and interactions with our customers. Now today, there are computer bots that call 50 to 100 customers per minute, to make sure that you are building a good relations, good reminder with the customer, good interactions to make sure that they are paying their EMIs on time, and you will get an alert saying, hey, this customer has a propensity of paying the EMI. Do you want to change the interactions? And my collection head do look at that data and then takes the next action based on the information that has been received. And we also do cross-check of the interactions that has happened in this duration, to make sure whether the machine is working as we intend to work or not. But then the results are really surprising, very interesting.
And is the data good as well? Because we had the morning sessions, right? Only for data to the extent of 40% is good, right? So 60% of data is noise.
Of course, absolutely. So, like I said, right, you need to know what is the kind of information that you are building, right? So, I'm not saying that we are 100% or we are right at that, but then we do feel, we do learn, and we do learn from other failures also, right? So, that's how we've been growing. Of course, more than 60% is data are definitely good and not even useless. So, in our case, we always intend to bring this number to as low as possible. I don't want an information of a user wherein the user may have ordered something from Zomato and that may or may not be relevant to my credit profile. So I don't want such type of information because I want to make sure that the customer is also feeling safe while sharing the data with me.
Sure. With the additional parameters, right? Because now the banks are also riding on the AA framework. Additional data, more data, right? So you have data, you're generating more data of the operations that you're doing, right? Now comes in additional data. It would definitely improvise the experience, the journey, right? Are there any consequences, any negative, positive, the way you see it?
Yeah. So first of all, I think A is a great step forward for us to go towards open banking. But as they say, with great power comes great responsibility. Here, you're talking about a single framework that has access to hundreds of millions of accounts, the data within them, as well as for hundreds of millions of users. So the most obvious challenge that I would see in this is obviously around security. See, financial institutions are built on trust. You go to HDFC Bank or you go to ICICI Bank because you have an inherent trust that, hey, this bank is not going to dupe me out of my own money. And similarly, the services are also built on trust. So data security is a big issue. And because of it, I would see the adoption of this particular technology among different players to build innovative products, to build innovative services, and to build sort of seamless experiences is where we will have the linchpin. If we can get a critical mass of people adopting this, if we can get a critical mass of people who are ready and willing to share this data to avail certain services or certain products, then I think we would be able to achieve the objectives of the AA framework. But security and adoption is what I would say are the first two things. See, this is still a very nascent thing right now, right? It's not really reached maturity. So I think there's going to be a lot of innovation from the market to build products that can sort of inbuild that trust that you're looking for and inbuild that security. And hopefully with that, we'll see a better adoption of AA framework for all the services that we're seeing right now.
Better adoption, more data, probably better predictability.
Exactly. Better predictability. But see, that's what I was saying, right? So when you have a single framework where all the data is there, even a small error can result into negative experience for that particular customer. Imagine, like on credit bureau, if somebody reports your DPD or days past due wrong for your credit card, suddenly your score drops, everything else associated with it goes for a toss. So a single framework will always have issues where the data quality and security will always be paramount. So I think that would be one area we need to keep in mind as we are developing this.
Any challenges that you foresee with
Challenges, definitely I agree with him that yes, data security is a challenge, but equally I am also quite bullish on this particular. As a financial information user, I will be very bullish on this. This will be very helpful to us. Only problem I see that customer initially will be very hesitant to give his consent for a longer term at least, because there is also a concern where I can get his consent that I can draw his statement of account every month, so that I can continuously monitor his details. That is one, I think. Sharing an OTP, where RBI and all other banks, they promote this through their SMS, cautioning the customers that don't share your OTP with anyone because it's a secure one-time password. So, but that's the basis through which the customer is going to give his consent, as well as once he gives his consent, we can draw his statement of account. So for us, definitely as an information user, we can underwrite loans looking at his bank statements, analyze statement, because there are also now these service providers, technology TSPs, not just the account aggregators, but in the ecosystem now there are lots of TSPs who have also joined in. They are giving you a very analyzed statement. Though the framework set up by RBI looks to be quite robust. The data will not be stored or used by the intermediaries like the account aggregator or the TSPs. It will be only passed on to the information user like an NBFC or any other people who will be looking at underwriting a loan. So I don't see much problem from the customer point of view, but there will be initially, I think, hesitancy. They will be hesitant to share their details through the OTP.
So hesitation, yes, definitely. Right? How is my data going to be used?
Yeah.
Okay. Not in commerce, right? So on data privacy, data management, innovation, right? How do they all come together and deliver and are and can potentially deliver superior, better customer experiences, right? Better products, better services. How can financial institutions, NBFCs start it better?
So as rightly pointed out by my fellow panelists is that the crux of data privacy is the customer consent. That is the crux. And that also ensures that about the digital trustworthiness of the organization, where how the organization, what kind of measures they put in, so there are, as we looked at earlier, basically there are two types of data, right? One which resides within the organization, the one which resides outside the organization. So about the data that resides within the organization, how are we managing that data? What kind of encryption policies we are putting, what kind of anonymization policies that we are putting, what kind of governance we are putting. So all of that determines the digital trustworthiness of the organization. And based on that, the customers will then share their data with that organization. Right? If, for instance, if a bank asks me to provide my data, I would first check which bank it is, whether I have an account in that bank or not. And with this account aggregation happening, that is something which is one crucial point that we have to address. The second thing is about the data that we get externally, right? Looking at my industry, there can be like market data also, right? We are looking at
That basically we will do as well.
Right. For instance, we are looking at broadcast, right? We are looking at the exchange data, stocks data, right? How are we processing that data? How are we analyzing that data? How are we generating the insights out of that data, which can be then fed into the trading algorithms that are there? Processing of huge amounts of data and deriving insights out of it, and then storing and managing that data in a proper way is something that we are constantly at.
So I take his point as well, because the way Dipesh said, right, data, you have data. So the way you said, right, internal plus external. What do you do with data? How do you demonstrate of the data? Convert it into information, right? And how do you really use the information? Any comments that you have?
So, there goes this famous saying, right? Don't take toffees from unknown. Don't give toffees to unknown is also equally important statement, right? So, if I don't know the customer, I'm supposed to interact with that customer through a digital wall. And if I don't know the customer, how will I serve that customer? So, what I mean to say here is that data is definitely important, right? And like I mentioned in my earlier point, building information out of that data is even more important, right? And there is type of data that you may or may not need. Doesn't matter where you walked last night, right? Or what food you ate, right? Or which disco do you go for a party, right? It may or may not be relevant to my business. I should be making sure that if I am taking someone's data, I should be handling it with utmost care, right? See, to a certain extent, of course, I am taking the data to build a person out of that person. But at the same time, there's so many news around, data mishandling, data leakage. We have to make sure that if we are taking someone's data, we are the custodians of that data. We have to make sure that it's equally protected as if you're protecting that person. It's equivalent to life of a person as in today's.
We can have
I thank my panelists who joined us in sharing their insights with the colleagues. Thank you.
We will, fantastic session, leaders, absolutely amazing. Ladies and gentlemen, a big round of applause for our amazing panelists.